I'm Isaac Alpert, a longtime card collector and the co-founder of the Penny Sleever. My wife and I started the Penny Sleever with a simple premise in mind: to offer collectors top quality supplies at fair prices. We offer a full range of hobby supplies and we'll get them to you fast. Whether you're looking for a 260-point magnetic for that oversized patch card or a slew of semi-rigids for your next PSA submission, the Penny Sleever has you covered. Shop now at thepennysleever.com and use the promo code SCNation to get 10% off your first order. That's SCNation for 10% off at thepennysleever.com. The Penny Sleever. Top quality supplies, fair prices.
Hobby quick hits. Delivering that breaking hobby news directly to your earlobes. You want to know those hot drops from the card shop? We've got you covered. With your host, John Newman.
Hello everybody out there. Welcome to episode 196 of Hobby Quick Hits. Today we are going to tackle the top 10 player graded list. The top 10 players being graded or sent in for grading. I'm going to go through the list, kind of give my thoughts. For those of you that may not know, I am a SGC bulk subber. Send usually 1 or 2 orders per month in the hundreds to SGC. I think we're up to like 6,000 or 7,000 cards submitted since I started. I will kind of throw in my own observations from being in the trenches of grading submissions as well. I sub to obviously SGC and PSA, and so I'll kind of give my own take, who was on the list, thoughts about that, maybe some snubs. Not necessarily snubs, it's by count, by how many are being submitted, but maybe some that I'm surprised aren't higher up. I'll just kind of throw in my 2 cents there. So that's today's topic. We've never done this before, but I think it might be something. I'm not going to overdo it, but every once in a while we'll kind of tackle these kind of lists.
Okay, now a quick word from our great sponsor, followed by the new product release schedule. Then we'll go around the Hobbyverse to tell you all the latest hobby happenings and news. Then we'll tackle today's topic of discussion.
Hi, this is Pat Hughes, Cubs announcer, coming to you from the Sports Card Shop in beautiful New Buffalo, Michigan. The Gocher family has built an incredible place here for collectors to buy, sell, and trade cards and memorabilia. Be sure to stop by and let them show you around. TheSportsCardShop.com, connecting sports, athletes, the hobby, and collectors around the world.
Hi, this is Alan Pinkett, and I'm here to tell you the Gocher family has done it again. They've just opened up the Sport Card Shop in downtown Valparaiso, Indiana, and it is awesome. If you're a collector, you need to check this place out. Tell them Alan sent you and get a free gift on your first visit.
All right, let's go over the product release schedule for the next 2 weeks, starting on January 15th. 2024, Bowman's Best Baseball. All these products will be on the 15th. 2025, Leaf Metal Sports Heroes, regular and solo edition. 2024-25, Upper Deck Synergy Hockey. 2024, Wild Card, 7-card stud, metal high stakes edition football. There's a mouthful. Going to the 16th. 2024, Topps Chrome, Formula One Racing Sapphire. The 17th, 2024, Bowman Draft Baseball Sapphire. Staying on the 17th, 2024, Leaf Elvis Presley Icons Collection. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet Prismatic Evolutions Binder Collection, Elite Trainer Boxes, Poster Collection, and Tech Sticker Collection. Going to the 22nd now, 2024, Topps Transcendent Collection Baseball. Very high-end, expensive product. Save your pennies for that one. Also on the 22nd, 2024, Upper Deck Goodwin Champions. On the 23rd, 2023, 24, Topps Finest Basketball. Regular and Breakers Delight. On the 24th, 2025, Leaf Power Slap. 2024, Panini Donruss Football Hobby. 2024-25, Panini Donruss Soccer. 2024-25, Panini NBA Hoops Basketball. Staying on the 24th, big release day here. 2024 Panini Prism Racing. 2024 Post Premier Football. 2024 Topps UFC Finest. Blasters and Megas. Yu-Gi-Oh! Supreme Darkness. To the 25th, 2024 Topps Diamond Icons Baseball. Another higher end product. And that concludes your next 2 weeks. Choose your weapon. Happy ripping.
Let's go round the hobbyverse and catch up on this week's hobby news.
And find out. All right, probably the biggest news story, or at least the most interesting to most collectors that came out. The Topps released its 2025 flagship design. To me, in the opinion of myself, it has a modern day 1982 design. So if you're familiar with the 82 Topps baseball, to me it reminds me of that, but obviously modernized and updated. Features the player's name on the side panel, and something never done before. Rather than list the position, instead of like shortstop as SS or outfield as OF, there is a diamond, a baseball diamond image, and they put a dot where the player plays. So if we play shortstop, you'll see a dot in the shortstop area of that diamond. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like that. It's something different, right? Aaron Judge is your cover boy. Will be featured on the box and packs, and that, as we know, comes out during the spring training time. So Topps 2025 trying to get that flagship buzz going. The National High School Football Player of the Year, Keelan Russell, out of Duncanville, Texas, near Dallas, has been signed to an NIL deal, including autographs by Panini. He will be headed to Alabama to play his college football. He went this year. He was 13-1. His team was 4,100 yards passing, 55 touchdowns. The year prior, they went undefeated and won a state championship. So the number one high school football player in the country signed to Panini. On the Beckett front, they announced they have signed their authentication team, led by Steve Grad and others, to a longer-term, multi-year contract extension. So they're keeping their guys in-house, unlike what we saw where their grading teams got purged. Now, I know I can rag on Beckett, sometimes, but this is a good move by that group, because I think this is what, if there's one thing that really hasn't fell off as a company, I think it's their grading expertise, led by Steve Grant. So they're going to keep their team intact. The Minnesota Wild of the NHL have announced a deal with My Gray, the auction house and selling platform, to a multi-year deal with them to sell and market their game-used Minnesota Wild equipment. And My Gray has done that with other professional teams. So this is just the latest in their stable there. PSA, which has a Halifax, Nova Scotia submission center in Canada, is moving that one from Halifax to Toronto, and they also announced they will be opening up a German drop-off location. No specific city or timetable just yet, to be determined. Staying on the grading front, CGC has announced some slight price increases across the board. I'm not going to go through all of them. You can go to their website to see how much more money grading will cost through them. And, I guess what would a news segment be without a crime report? And unfortunately, we have one. Martin Jacobs of Northern California, 81 years old. He's a author and San Francisco 49er historian, and was a good friend of Norman McElhenney, Hall of Fame NFL legend. He went on vacation, and his home was robbed. And they took gold, silver, his parents' wedding rings, and cash from a safe. But I guess that the silver lining is they left his memorabilia collection alone. Unfortunately, he was not insured, so it's a total loss. And he's selling his memorabilia collection now, probably based on his age at 81, and to recoup some of the losses on eBay. So, I guess the lesson there, and it's a terrible story. Anytime someone gets robbed, but insurance, right? You've heard me talk about this before. Like insure your valuables and keepsakes. And no one wants them stolen, but it's a double stinger when they're stolen and they're not covered. And you can cut down at least half the sting with insurance coverage. So, all right, that's this week's, or the last 2 weeks, notable news.
And now, our feature presentation.
All right, guys, let's talk about the top 10 list. Let me see how many names I got here. The top 12 list in most graded cards by player. And I'll go 1 to 10. I know we like to be dramatic and go 10 down to 1. But not most of these will not be a surprise to people in the hobby. You could almost probably guess many of them without even seeing it. So there's really no suspense here. But what I'm going to do is go through and kind of interject some of my thoughts and what I'm seeing doing 2 to 3 shows a month and doing bulk subbing for SGC, and kind of my take on the list. So number 1 on the list is Wemby. And not surprised. I myself have a lot of graded Wembys. But I will say this. There's a lot of them in the wild, if you will. And I've really, I've got mine, competitively priced. And I got to be honest with you. I'm not selling a lot of my graded Wembys. And it's not because he's doing bad or that he's injured like a Zion usually gets. It's not that. I think the issue here is everyone's sending them in to be graded, and there's no shortage of them, right? Panini didn't stop the presses on their hoops products, especially probably knowing, the end is near. So, yeah, this, we talk about junk wax, junk slab era. I don't like that term per se, but I'll just say this. There's a lot of Wemby graded cards out there. So long term, if he just keeps playing well, maybe they'll pick up a little bit. But no, I'm not surprised to see that as the number 1 player on this graded card list. Number 2, the legend, right? Michael Jordan, who in many times would be number 1 on this list. And this is sort of the opposite of Wemby. Is I do sell a decent amount of Jordan graded cards. And I think the difference is there's just not as many. And then, listen, there's no shortage of Jordan cards, unless it's a rare 90s insert. But he's the GOAT, right? Sorry, LeBron folks. Jordan's the GOAT. But, there's always a demand for raw Jordans, for graded Jordans. I do very well selling Jordans. Number 3 on this list, C.J. Stroud. And, he was really hot earlier in the year here with the Texans. And I think a lot of that fed into that. He's not doing bad, but sort of that he's kind of come back down to earth. I like him long term. I don't have a ton of C.J. Stroud stuff, so I'm not going to comment there as to how it's going on the front lines with him. There was a stretch, even doing my bulk SGC grading, where I got quite a bit of C.J. Stroud's submitted. So, but that's kind of tailed off too, as he's kind of settled down, and I think people are waiting to see what he's going to do here in the playoffs, how long he's going to last, that kind of thing. Number 4, surprised maybe it's not a little higher. Shohei Ohtani. I mean, what do you need to say, right? 50-50 guy, kind of transcending baseball a little bit. And then next year, if he returns to the mound, we'll see. I've never had issues selling Shohei. He's one of those guys on this list that, if you come to my setup at a show, I'm not going to lie to you, not all my Shoheis are out for sale. There's some that I've kind of tucked away and just holding on to for the longer term. So, surprised maybe he's not a little bit up on the list, maybe ahead of C.J. Stroud, but things change, right? That's the list for now. The next name really does surprise me because I am not a buyer of this next guy, and talented, but I just don't think he's going to be a quarterback great. And that's Anthony Richardson of the Colts. And I know he's a prospect. I know he's a quarterback project. I'm surprised he's this far up on the list. But I'm each year that passes here and the Colts are done, there's no playoffs for the Colts. Kind of gets nicked up. He gets injured. He misses some time. I'm all right now. Listen, for the 2 cents it's worth coming from me, I'm not buying Anthony Richardson, and thankfully I don't have a ton, but I'm definitely would be a seller on him. Number 6, Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace. Mamba mentality. Great at the game, right? Hall of Famer. Not surprised here. Not much to say. I only have a few Kobe's left, quite frankly. He's not in obviously the same realm as Jordan, where people come up and ask for his stuff like they do Jordan, but there is a soft place in a lot of basketball collectors' hearts for obvious reasons. So not surprised that he's 6th on this list. Number 7, LeBron James. Again, talked about as being one of the GOATs. I'm not a LeBron guy. I don't have a ton. I tend to kind of shy away from him. I'd rather have a Jordan. If it's Jordan versus LeBron, I'd rather have a Jordan card. But listen, you can't argue with the greatness that is LeBron. So, I do get a lot of LeBron cards submitted for grading through SGC, so not surprised here. Number 8 on this list, Ellie De La Cruz. Kind of proved last year with the Reds that the first year wasn't a fluke. There was a point there, kind of pitchers watched tape on him, kind of had him figured out. He kind of settled down, and then he must have watched some film too because he's made some adjustments. He looks like going to be a good player for a while. I was a little weary of him, but I'm starting to believe, and I don't think it's a bad deal to get some of your key Ellie's grade. And I will say this, he's one of those players with my SGC bulk subs. I usually get quite a bit. I've had some really nice cards of his come through on the bulk sub. And Anthony Edwards, I think he's number 9 now on this list. Solid ball player. I think, not a sexy guy in the same vein as your Jordans, your LeBrons, your Wembys, but kind of flying under the radar. I think he's a fairly safe player to put some money into and collect. I'm not surprised where he is on the list. I'm not saying that, but I think there's less great. Well, obviously there's less graded to him of Wemby, and sort of kind of lurking in the shadows and flying under the radar, which turns out to be a good deal, right? The next person on this list, number 10, I'm surprised she's not a little bit higher, but I just think the only reason she's not higher is the limited availability of cards. She's not in, WNBA is not as mainstream as obviously NBA. So less cards of her out there in the wild to be graded. Otherwise, I think she'd be higher in the list. I haven't even said her name yet. You probably know who I'm talking about, and that's Caitlin Clark. And so she's 10th. And again, don't read into that. The only reason she's probably 10th is there's just not as many cards, comparatively speaking, as the 9 other athletes on this list. I'm not saying she'd be number 1, but I think she'd be 2, 3, or 4 if she had as many cards as some of these other players. Number 11 doesn't surprise me. He's a guy I personally love. Try to pick up some cards of his even to this day, even though he's a Hall of Famer, no longer playing. But Ken Griffey Jr., right? And I think people are starting to look back, when they look at the steroid era, right? And they hear about all the, Bonds and McGuires and Sosas. And Griffey played in that same era, but obviously he, not mentioned in that vein with performance enhancers. And then when you look at his numbers, he's one of the greatest living ball players we have, and he's only in his mid-50s. And, I think people are starting... He's always been appreciated. I don't want to make it sound like he's underrated, but I think more people are kind of seeing Griffey for the greatness that he is. So he comes in at 11th most graded as a player. Number 12 is a guy I've talked about at various times and with my content. Still young, still got many years to play. And there's some, even though his stuff's not necessarily cheap, he's going for the three-peat this year, and I think he's the closest thing we're probably going to get to Tom Brady, maybe ever, at least in the recent future years here. That's Patrick Mahomes. And I know he didn't make the Pro Bowl this year, had a quiet year, but the Chiefs were 14-2 and they're the number 1 seed and probably one of the favorites to win their 3rd straight Super Bowl here. We'll see if the Bills or the Ravens can, I like to say the Steelers, but I'm a realist. See if the Bills or the Ravens can knock them off the perch, because I think those are the only 2 teams that have a shot at the Chiefs. And if Mahomes wins his 3rd straight Super Bowl, again, his cards are sort of at that ceiling, but it might break through that ceiling with a three-peat, which we haven't seen in many, many, many moons. So, from a selfish perspective, he's another guy. I've got Mahomes graded cards out in my case, and I've got Mahomes graded cards that no one sees that are not even at the show, because I'm just kind of marinating on them. And because I think he's going to be, he already is one of the greats, and I think he's going to add to that legacy each year through his career. And kind of when his playing career is done, he could have 5, 6, 7 rings potentially. Obviously Pro Bowls and incredible numbers. So, and I know he didn't make the Pro Bowl this year. He still had a great year. He just didn't have that Mahomes year that people got spoiled from him, right? The Chiefs, listen, everyone can agree, the Chiefs aren't 14-2 without Patrick Mahomes. And, just hasn't, he's still looking for that replacement, I think, for Tyreek Hill and whatnot. But still an incredible quarterback, incredible player. Plays hurt, right? Plays nicked up, doesn't miss many games. He's the real deal, and I think that's why. Maybe I'm a little surprised he isn't higher, but, he's maybe if a year or 2 ago when he was higher, it made sense. But I have no problem with seeing him. And, I do get a lot of his stuff coming through the SGC bulk sub. So I get it. So there's the list. Guys, I'm surprised I didn't see on this list. Let me think here. One that comes right to mind, Paul Skeens. I got a ton of him his cards through my SGC bulk subs. Just one Rookie of the Year, at the end of the year here. Surprised he's not higher. I think the reason is the same reason I talked about Caitlin Clark. I just think, he's only, he's in his, just completed his first year. He doesn't have as many cards as a veteran or even a second, third, or fourth year player does. So I think that's why. I don't know where he was. I just went over the top 12. I don't have the rest of the list. He's probably right on that cusp anyway, but thought he would be a little bit higher on this list. Gunnar Henderson, I know he's not necessarily a sexy name, but I think he's legit. A lot of, not a rookie anymore, but he's a second-year player. I thought you'd see more rookie cards of him getting graded. A guy I absolutely love. I'm surprised. I think eventually he will be higher on this list, and that's Bobby Witt Jr., 5-tool player. To me, he's the next it guy, if you will, and I can make a case that he is the guy right now. And Juan Soto, especially with the new deal, we'll see how that affects people subbing his cards. I don't get a ton of Sotos through the buy. I get some, but comparatively speaking, I don't get a ton. So we'll see what the new Mets deal and being the highest paid player type of deal with Shohei does anything. But listen, 40 home runs a year, triple digit ribbies, some steals mixed in there. Great ball player, right? So that's another one that I'm surprised is not higher on the list. And I'll close with one more. Zion Williamson. Why isn't this guy? No, I'm kidding there. That's called sarcasm. Fully understand why someone like Zion, who I think could be a good player, just can't stay healthy and on the court. So, so there's the top 12, and then I added a few names and some commentary there. So we'll try to do these type of list things every so often and tackle them. And I definitely wanted to do this, especially when I could add in some of the stuff I'm seeing on the front lines of being an SGC bulk submitter. So there you go. All right. Thank you for listening to another episode of Hobby Quick Hits. Want to give out our social media, starting with our website, which is www.sportscardnationpodcast.com. Facebook, you can follow us at www.facebook.com/SportsCardNationPodcast/. Twitter, we are at SportsCardNati1, so it's SportsCard NATI1. Instagram, at SportsCardNationPodcast, or you can email the show, hobbyquickhits@gmail.com. Again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.